Hi, I just got back from watching the Prometheus midnight screening last night. I was gonna do this last night, but it was very late, so I decided to hold off until the morning. I'm just gonna give my impressions of it, vlog style. And this is gonna be spoiler free, except for the very end, and I'll give you a good amount of warning when it's coming in case you want to turn it off and you don't want the spoilers to come. Although a spoiler about the spoilers, they really don't detract from viewing the movie. I mean, if I knew them, it wouldn't have changed my opinion of the film. I want to start off by talking about the story. If you haven't seen the trailer, a lot of this movie is based around the space jockey, which is the alien pilot that they found inside the ship that was carrying the alien eggs in the first Alien movie. And this is supposed to be, according to Ridley Scott, their story. And if you go in there saying, oh boy, I want to know what the space jockey was up to and what that whole thing was with the alien eggs in the ship, guess what? You're not, because they do not answer those questions. It doesn't happen. I mean, I suppose you could construe it that way, but one of the writers is Damon Lindenhoff, who is a writer, executive producer on Lost. So if they answer the questions, and I can see that they don't, they answer them Lost style, which means they answer them with more questions. So if there is an answer to this, so there's a space jockeys and anything like that we can clearly define in the future, it ain't here. It's not here yet. I wish it was, because I was kind of curious. And about the space jockeys, I was always a little bit divided about whether I wanted to know about them, because part of me was naturally curious when they go into that ship and see the alien. I wanted to know where he was from and what he did and why he was here so long and why he was killed and so forth. But really, I think a bigger part of me wanted it to remain a mystery. You know, I didn't really want the space jockey to be revealed. I kind of wanted it to remain a mystery, because what you imagine they're doing there, and the wonder is sort of better than whatever you get. In this case, I don't know if he really got anything. They don't really explain anything about the space jockeys too much, at least not something concrete. It's not like we have any facts about them. We have more questions. You know, it's the old Lost style. We're not going to tell you what's going on, but we'll give you another question to ask. And that really kind of annoyed me. I mean, if they're going to answer the questions in subsequent movies, and there's a huge sequel bait at the end. I mean, I would go so far as to say it's not even a sequel bait, it's a part 2 of this movie. It's not even a sequel, it's not its own film, it's part 2 of this one. If they answer them, maybe it'll be alright. Otherwise, if they're just going to have more and more questions, it's going to be really ridiculous. To get back to the story, sorry, going off on a tangent there, you find out that across all ancient cultures and some medieval cultures, there is a recurring pictographic motif of these very particular looking aliens reaching out to this one star system. Somehow from the pictograms they're able to find out what star system it is. And the fact that none of these ancient cultures had any contact with each other makes them believe that aliens planted them. And right away, I think that's kind of a silly idea, because it's from Aliens vs. Predators, isn't it? It's from Aliens vs. Predator. I mean, really? Are we stealing from... Do we need to steal from that crap? And there always seems like to be a little bit of other Alien movies in this one. Obviously, it's almost like a redo of the first Alien movie with landing on the planet and finding the aliens and their attack of them, etc. But there are little hints from other Alien movies. Like, they actually have the line from Aliens that Hicks says, "We are leaving!" when they run out of the alien nest in the second movie. And they actually have that exact line in here. And I think there's actually even a reference to Alien Resurrection, where one of the characters is playing basketball and he scores a perfect shot with one hand. Gets a perfect basket with one hand over his head like that. And maybe I'm reading too much into that. Maybe it's not a resurrection reference. Maybe it is. I don't know. Ultimately, the story is most similar, not to an Alien movie, but to Contact. And there's a lot of questions about God and humanity and our origins and evolution and things like that, and I can't really give you any spoilers on it. I wish I had some more concrete information, but there are no spoilers to give because they don't really answer anything. It's just more questions, and we're gonna have to wait for another movie to get some answers. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's gonna be like every Lost season where they just keep asking more questions and never concretely answer anything. I don't know. So the story, I mean, I sound like I'm coming down really hard on it. I didn't. I want to make it clear that I enjoyed the movie, even though there's some criticisms I have of it. And I didn't feel like I wasted my time. I enjoyed myself. Getting to the characters, they were... they weren't... Most of them weren't very good. The main character played by Noomi Rapace, Elizabeth Shaw, is not very interesting. She's a character that has character traits but no personality. You know, if you're looking at her character traits, and it's such a banal trait, it's the believer in God who's having her faith questioned. And, you know, the answer wasn't interesting to me at the end, whether she believed or not. She didn't really have much of a character. I think, based on the way she speaks, she was supposed to be English in the original script. But since Noomi Rapace is European, from the continent, it really kind of sounds strange to have her doing this. Playing what's probably a British character. The other characters are not very interesting. There's Meredith Vickers, played by Charlize Theron, and she's hot, and she's dressed sexily, and that's about it. She's playing this corporate villain working for the Wayland Corporation, and she is... I'm sorry, she's just terrible. She got a lot of positive reviews, but she's awful. If you go back to the movie Aliens, there you can see some really good corporate evil villain guys. They are fantastic in that movie. They are... because the key to playing an evil corporate douchebag scumbag like Carter Burke, or Van Leeuwen, the guy who led the corporate committee at the beginning of the movie, who was attacking Ripley. Van Leeuwen and Carter Burke are great because they're nice. They're nice guys. They're great corporate villains because they can get inside your skin and make them seem like good people when really they're completely, absolutely evil scumbags. But they're very polite about it. They're not really out there to be, I'm an evil bitch who dresses in this vaguely militarist fashion like Charlize Theron. She seems like someone pretending to be an evil corporate stereotype, and she's terrible at it. I'm sorry. She really... The other guys, Carter Burke and Van Leeuwen and the other corporate guys, could all put her to shame. I'm sorry. They could. There's a character played by Sean Harris from Trainspotting. And I loved him in Trainspotting, and especially the Red Riding trilogy. He's fantastic in those. But he really feels out of place here, because he seems to be like a geologist slash football hooligan. Like he's a geologist and he has a degree, but he's this close to snapping at any moment. He's got like a mohawk and tattoos, and it really seems incongruous. It doesn't really make sense at all to this character. And the other characters are so forgetful and so ridiculous that at points in the movie, I think the writers forget where they are. And it's not like we know where everybody is or what everybody's doing. These characters they forget about are just wandering off somewhere, doing God knows what. And, a good indication of the characters is that all of the characters on their spacesuits have their name emblazoned across the top of it. And it really says, like, hi, my name... You didn't need, hi, my name is Parker, emblazoned on the top of the... on their spacesuits in the original Alien movie, because Yaphet Kotto was great in his role, and they were interesting characters. But here, you need, hi, my name is Elizabeth Shaw. I'm surprised they didn't have, hi, my name is Meredith Vickers, and I'm an evil corporate villain written on there. They might as well have had that. It was just silly to have the names on there. And, in terms of the characters, there are points in the movie that really feel like they forget about some of the characters. Where it's not like in the first Alien movie where there's a small number of people, they're all involved in everything that happens. No, that doesn't happen. There are a couple of characters that are extraneous and they're just sort of left out of scenes, and they just don't make any kind of sense at all. They're just The writers and the characters kind of forget about them. The main characters are doing something, and you wonder what the other these side characters are doing. Are they just sort of twiddling their thumbs on the ship? I mean, what's going on? They just sort of fall, and I don't even know if we see their deaths. Of some of these, they're not even like red shirts to be killed off. They just kind of, they just, I don't know if they just sort of die and we don't notice it, or if they did, they really. I mean, I didn't notice they were these nameless characters. Elizabeth's not husband, boyfriend, I think, is I don't even remember his name. He's even less of a character than she is because he's designed to be the foil to her character. He's the rationalist who says, "Oh, I believe in evolution. Oh, your faith is stupid. Your Bible is false." You know, he's one of those type of guys, and he's really not interesting at all. There is one of the characters that I'll gladly jump on the bandwagon about, though, and that's Michael Fassbender, who plays the robot David. And he is fantastic in this, and he had stiff competition from the first two Alien movies. And let's include Blade Runner too, because this is Ridley Scott, and he does a fantastic job, and he is right there, holding his own against these two other iconic android characters, artificial person, excuse me. He's fantastic in his role, and it's kind of sad that he's really the only really good character in this one. And it's fantastic to watch him, and he's very, very creepy. And to hold your own in terms of creepiness next to a robot rapist from the first movie is really hard, and yeah, he does a great job of that. And I really enjoy that character, but that's kind of it. The captain, I'll get into later at the very end of the review when I mention where there'll be a couple of spoilers, but that's going to be at the very end. I did like the look of the movie. As everyone said, the movie looks fantastic, and I think that's great. The CGI is excellent. However, I would have to say that it looks great in terms of CGI, and I'm not a huge fan of CGI. I prefer practical effects, so it doesn't even come close to the original Alien movies. The first two Alien movies, or Blade Runner. Those movies looked amazing, and they were practical effects for the most part, and they looked fantastic. So, in terms of CGI in the modern age, it does look great. I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed the weird Giger-esque structures that they walk through, and watching them explore this place. It looks fantastic. Also, in terms of how the movie looked, with the alien monsters in it that attack the crew, they really don't stand up at all to the xenomorph from the first films. They seem not to be as Giger inspired. This weird blending of man and machine, and this really strange creature. I mean, they're strange, but they seem like they invented them at the moment. There's nothing really memorable about them. You kind of forget. There's sort of these odd facehugger-ish type things here and there, and there's one huge monster that starts out looking like a squid, but then sort of turns into a Shoggoth from the Lovecraft universe at one point, and they're just not very memorable. They're just sort of these big blobby creatures that are meant to kill someone. Towards the end of the movie, there are a couple of plot twists here and there that do not make sense, and I mean, strangely enough, not only do they not make sense, they're not important. I mean, they didn't need to have them in the movie. They're so useless, these plot twists. It's like they're having them in the Shyamalanian way, where they just say, "Oh, I'm Shyamalan, I'm going to have a twist." They bring nothing to the table, to the movie. The best scenes in the movie are early on, when they're first exploring the alien structure, this weird pyramidal type stone thing that that they find. And when they're exploring that, it's really exciting and interesting. And the first 45, 50 minutes in the movie, roughly the first half of the movie, are the best. After that, it really kind of goes down. After that, unfortunately, and I still enjoyed myself. I still liked it a lot. I think that if I wasn't forced to compare it to the first Alien movies and Blade Runner, that I would have liked it a lot more. But I was a lot more critical of it. And overall, I liked it. I like the way it looks. The story was kind of fun. The characters should have been rewritten to be a little less preachy. The movie is very Contact-like. It's very much a movie similar to Contact. And don't get me wrong, I hated Contact. Love Carl Sagan, hated Contact. If you hated Contact too, if you hated Contact as well, thank God there wasn't a sequel. If you hated Contact, don't let that put you off. That's not gonna mean you're automatically gonna hate this one. Although there are some similar themes, it just doesn't club you over the head with it as much as Contact did. Although it's still pretty blunt. The story could have used some tweaking. If this is the first in a planned trilogy, I'll gladly forgive the story because they're trying to set up questions that will be answered later. But if it's just going to be this lost nonsense, then why are we even bothering watching this? You know, I mean, we're trying to find out about the space jockeys, or the what do they call them? Engineers in this one. Is what they refer to the aliens as. And if we don't find out about them, why are we even having this series? I hope we learn more about them. So overall, I enjoyed myself. And I would recommend that if you're a fan of science fiction, just don't get your expectations up too high. This isn't going to be on the same level as the Alien movies or anything like that. It's going to be a good, fun adventure that if you can let your put your criticisms in the back of your mind, you'll watch. Now on to the two of the spoilers. Okay, so we're having the two spoilers now. So if you don't want them spoiled, stop the video right now. The first one is not exactly a spoiler, because I think they show this in the trailer, more or less, but I'm just mentioning this just in case somebody is going into this completely new. At one point, Noomi Rapace's character, Elizabeth, gets impregnated with one of the alien creatures, because they're very similar to the creatures from the first Alien movie. And she actually has to... They're going to freeze her and put her in cryostasis and bring her back to Earth. But she manages to remove the weird alien creature impregnated inside her by herself. She does surgery with this weird machine, sort of like a life support tube, but it's also can do surgery. I know it sounds strange, but it's in the movie. And she manages to cut the thing out of her own stomach, like give herself a C-section, and pull the alien out. And it's a really good scene. It's probably one of the best in the movie. It's really enjoyable. But they stole that from a comic book called Alien Labyrinth that they did back in the 90s, where the exact same thing happened. A guy is infected with the aliens, with the facehugger, and he has the alien impregnated inside of him, and he has to cut it out himself. And it was actually more gruesome in that one, because he just used a scalpel, not this weird machine. So I was kind of annoyed at that they sort of... maybe it's just part of their mentioning everything from everything. You know, they're mentioning something from all the Alien movies. Oh, I don't think I saw something from 3, not that I remembered. But I've tried to put 3 out of my mind, admittedly, because it wasn't very good. So I was kind of annoyed at that they more or less blatantly ripped that off from this story. A comic book that I think could have been filmed. And now if somebody tries to film it, they're going to say, oh, you ripped that off from Prometheus, when really Prometheus ripped it off. I don't know if they've read the comic. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't, but it seems like they kind of ripped that off from there. Now to the second spoiler, and this is a much bigger spoiler. And it's really, really silly. And it's about the character Parker. Excuse me. Janek. I'm confusing it with the Apikoto's character. And he's the captain of the ship. And he seems almost programmed like a robot to be the wisecracking, working class, I'm not one of you scientist type guys sort of people. And he's sort of like the foil to everybody else. And he is, I mean, he's also sort of the comic relief, which doesn't quite, which is alright. It was a couple of funny lines here and there. But the part that really annoyed me about his character is at the very end of the movie. And there's a moment where a rash, heroic, suicidal decision has to be made. He goes to make this, I'm going to surrender my life for the good of humanity, without any reason backing it up. I mean, he almost seems like he was walking through life one day going, oh boy, I wish I could find a way to sacrifice my life heroically for others. Where is that? Where is that? Is that over there? I mean, there's no character arc. We don't feel passionately enough why he makes this decision to kill himself in order to do this. And what's really strange is that the two pilot characters he's with, they make the decision too. And we know even less of those characters. They're even less characters. I don't even know if they had their names emblazoned on the spacesuits. And they make the decision too. How could they jump so quickly into ending their own lives in order to do this? In the other Alien movies, Ripley's fierce determination to stop these aliens from reaching Earth, we felt because of the struggle she went through the film. And this guy, he really doesn't struggle. He doesn't leave the fucking ship. I'm sorry, but he doesn't leave the damn ship. Until, or very briefly if he does. He mostly stays inside and just watching what's going on makes this decision that he has to, one of those, "Si, Capitan, 500 lives to save 5,000 kind of decisions, and it's ridiculous. It comes out of nowhere, and they really did a poor job setting that character up. And it is kind of disturbing that he's a black character, kind of like Watkins from Starship Troopers, where he suddenly decides to, he's the hero, ends his own life to save the white guys, which is a little irritating. So, I know this was kind of rambling, and I know that I said a lot of contradictory things, and I know I criticize it pretty harshly, but I know this is going to sound strange, but based on what I said, but I did like it, I did enjoy it, and I would want people to, I would recommend it to others. I think it was very well made. Hopefully they're going to have more in the future about the Alien world / Prometheus world, universe I mean, and hopefully we'll get to see that. Bye.